When you walk through that door, they rush at you. It is, I'm getting chills now thinking about it, and it's just up those stairs over there.
Carlo Zuzik is a successful paranormal investigator when he meets Heather Wyatt. The two fall in love and begin investigating cases together. At the same time, they start planning their future.
One day I just kind of woke up and I was like, I want to invest my money into properties. And so I started looking for like duplexes and things like that just to see what was out there. Everything I found just didn't, fit me well. So one day I was looking on the internet and I came across this big house and I was like, for some reason it just caught my eye. And I usually don't look at stuff that's high priced, I guess, out of my price league, And there was just something about it that just drew me in. What I liked about it is how big it was. The rooms were huge. The porch just kind of sells the house for itself because it's so big. You could just hang out on the porch and you can even barbecue on this thing. It's so big. It's got pocket doors. It's things I never had in my life, and it was like something that I always wanted.
When I first walked in, I wanted to move in. I wanted all the rooms. Picked out my own room upstairs.
So I called a realtor, and the funny thing is the realtor that actually sold me my first house was selling this house. So it kind of worked out well. And we decided to go out and look at it. I knew nothing about it. I remember when I walked through the front door, I seen there was fire alarms and sprinkler system everywhere. And it caught my eye. So I asked the realtor, I was like, was this just a normal home? And he's like, no, it was a bed and breakfast at one time. And then, it was sold to a family.
From the start, Carlo knows there's something different about the Bihl house.
I knew the minute walking through this door, before I even walked to the rest of this house, that I was going to buy it. I just knew it. It was like the weirdest feeling. I told Heather when the realtor turned around, I'm like, I'm buying this house. And she looked at me like I was crazy, but, it was something that, something just drew me to this house. So we bought it to move in and work on it and kind of just have a big, happy home. And, ghosts or anything like that was the last thing on my mind.
Carlo may feel called to the house, but he soon hits a roadblock in purchasing it.
I decided to make an offer on this home. So I did that, and I went to the bank, and a few days later, the banker told me that they can't give me the loan because the house is outdated. At that point, I was just like, you know what? If the bank refuses it, no big deal. I'll find something else, and I kind of just brushed it off. But I literally work about 2 blocks away from here. So every day I would drive past here. I would go on the website to see if he lowered the price on the house. For some reason, this house it was just calling me. It was like the weirdest thing. So one day I was sleeping and I woke up and I told Heather, I was like, I'm just gonna make a cash offer on this house. And she's like, are you serious? I'm like, why not? See what happens, So I called the realtor and I met him here and I said, look, I'll give him half cash for the house if he's willing to sell it. Because the family didn't live in here for 10 years. They owned it and they moved out of here. So Monday came and he messaged me, said he'll take my offer. So I called a realtor and I asked him if I could come in before I make this purchase to take pictures. I wanted to take pictures of everything just to get an idea what it's going to cost me to fix this place. So it was in July. It was super hot outside. None of these windows opened at the time. So Heather and I came here, and the realtor met us here, and Heather and the realtor were standing outside because it was so hot in here. So I decided to start in the attic, and I went up there and I started taking pictures, but then I started hearing somebody cough, and it was like super loud, like they're coughing up a lung. And I came downstairs and they're both standing outside on the porch. There's nobody in the house. And I asked Heather, I was like, were you guys in the house? Who was coughing? She's like, nobody even walked in the house. And I'm like, well, that was weird because, I heard somebody coughing.
Carlo and Heather are excited to close on the house, but their joy doesn't last long.
It was during the day. I was excited. I got the keys, to this big palace of mine. And I come walking through this door, and there was stuff all over this table here. And I put my stuff down, and I hear somebody walking around upstairs. And I'm like, who the hell's in the house? So I called Heather immediately. I'm like, hey, I'm like whispering in the phone. I'm like, I think someone's in the house. And I hear somebody walking around upstairs. Well, she's like, well, go up there and look. And I'm like, I ain't going up there and look. So I start yelling up the stairs. But I remember the realtor telling me that the gentleman's supposed to come back and pick up the heater or something like that. But I didn't see any cars outside. And I started walking up the stairs, and there was nobody in the house. But I could clearly hear somebody just walk, like they were just living up there, walking around. And then after I went upstairs, 'cause I was still talking to her on the phone, I go, there's nobody in this house. And then I think you made the comment, is it haunted? And I'm like, I hope not. I just don't want to deal with that. After we heard those footsteps, Heather and I one night, this was maybe a week or two after we had the place, decided to come here one night. It was probably like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night or something like that. And I was like, let's just go sit in the house. There was no furniture in here or anything. It was bare bones. And we decided to sit in the front living room and just listen to see if we're going to hear anything. Just, now we're kind of in that investigating mode, what's going on here. So we sat on the floor, and I decided to knock on the floor to see if I get a response. So I knocked 3 times on the hardwood floor, and we sat there. It was, you could hear a mouse bark. It was so quiet. There was nothing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it goes boom, boom, boom. It came from actually where we're sitting here. It came from behind us.
I've never experienced anything like that in all the years I had been investigating. So my instinct was to hit the road.
I'm trying to figure out what just happened. I'm walking around this house. I still, to this day, have no clue what that noise was, but it shook the floor. And I think that was my first sign that something strange is probably up with this house.
When the knocking doesn't drive them from the house, the ghostly activity in the house ramps up.
I was cutting grass, and I brought something in the house, and I opened the front door. As I opened the door, there's a boy standing on the landing. It's super rare to even see something like this, but I could give you full details of the boy. He had red hair, he was wearing a black suit, and he had a white shirt on. But he never made eye contact. He was looking down. And my first thought was, holy cow, am I really looking at this? And then he just vanished. And, at first, you give that 1 second, you're like, was that just my imagination? But it was too clear. I know what I know what I was looking at. It was definitely a boy. And, but yeah, he just vanished. He was just gone. Even though he didn't do anything, you're looking at what I believe was a living person at one point in a spirit form. That's a vision that's going to be embedded in my mind forever.
Heather becomes the spirit's next target.
We do store some stuff in the basement, so I think I was putting some stuff away. And I didn't really, it's eerie down there anyway, because it's a basement, first of all. It's just, But I was down there by myself, not really scared at the time, but it was just creepy. And I got really cold, and that's when I felt something start from my neck all the way down my back. It was a finger. I knew it wasn't a human being. It was cold. It was ice cold. I was down there by myself too, so I was terrified. I knew there was nobody down there. It just traveled all the way down my back. That's when I decided I'm out of there. So as I turned and went up the steps to come back up, something shoved me. I almost fell face forward into the steps.
It is being territorial. Why is it pushing people? Is it not wanting anybody in this house? The house sat empty for so long. These spirits were probably, just doing their thing every day. And here comes a whole new family moving in or trying to move in. And I don't think they were having it. And they were making it known by doing these noises, like trying to scare us, pushing. It makes you feel, you're kind of angry, but you're also scared because at this point, I don't know what's going on here. I didn't do like the full research on this place, but it also disappoints you because you bought this home, to live in, and now you're starting to see things, you're starting to hear things, I don't want to deal with it. It's very uncomfortable.
The activity becoming physical is troubling and reminds Carlo of his terrifying childhood experiences.
Back in 1970s, my parents came from Yugoslavia. It was a dream, you came to America looking for the American dream. My parents bought a home in Cleveland, and it started off with seeing the shadow figure walking in the kitchen. Then he actually started coming to my doorway, and I was only like 10 years old at the time, and he would sit there and sway back and forth, and man, he just it really freaked me out. And one night, and this is something I'll never forget either, I was actually sleeping on my stomach, and all of a sudden it felt like a ton of bricks just landed on my back, and I felt something grab me from behind my neck and push me down into the pillow. And I couldn't breathe, but I remember it was speaking in a language I couldn't understand. And at that time, I was going to a Catholic church, so my first thought was to pray, because I don't know if it was an intruder. I had no clue what this was. Being 10 years old, you're clueless. And I started to pray, and I remember the only thing in my ear, it said, God won't save you, and then it released. And I remember it scratched me, and I started screaming for my mom, and it was an experience that I would never forget. Even in my 20s and early 30s, before my mom sold the house, if my mom wasn't there, I wouldn't stay in the house. It was that energy was there, and I could feel him watching me. It was almost like I was still a target in my 20s. That is one of the reasons I don't want to live here. I don't want to come home and see things, hear things. And the other thing too, you just never know when you're sleeping, something like that may happen again.
At the Bihl house, the second floor has become a hub for paranormal activity.
When you go onto that floor, all the hairs on your arms stand up. I mean, it almost feels like when you walk through that door, they rush at you. I'm getting chills now thinking about it, and it's just up those stairs over there.
That hallway upstairs, like when it leads towards the back, to me is like one of the creepiest hallways. Like when I walk down there, the hair on my arm stands up. You could feel something behind you. It's like they're creeping behind you.
The entire time.
Yeah, the entire time. And it's almost like you're being stalked. But that hallway to me upstairs, and also there's another bedroom upstairs where I have a lot of toys for the kids. We see a lot of shadow play in there.
And also on the second floor in that hallway is where we see a lot of small, dark, black figures.
Like children. Shadows running around.
And peeking around the corners. And seeing what you're doing, spying on you. We were upstairs in one of the bedrooms, and I could just feel something or someone staring at me. At some point, I'm staring into that room, and I see a whole person just walk past the doorway into the wall. And there was nowhere else they could have gone because there's wall there. And it was a whole body, and it was pitch black. And, they just disappeared into the wall.
That whole second floor just creeps me out. I'll go in the basement, with no issues, but that second floor, I don't like going up there.
After his horrifying childhood encounter, Carlo refuses to stay in the house. He and Heather do allow people with a passion for the paranormal to book overnight stays, which only makes the ghosts lash out more.
I had a couple of friends come here, and they slept in the front room. And the first night they were here, I came in the next morning, and I was like, hey guys, did you guys experience anything weird in here last night? And they're like, yeah, we got bit. You could actually see, it looked like a kid. It was a small mouth, and you could see the teeth marks on their arm. I mean, literally like someone just took a bite of their arm.
Guests at the house report a range of other paranormal attacks.
The scratches, I've seen different versions of it. I've seen them where they're just light scratches. I just had a person here not that long ago, which his whole back was red. I mean, it was like scratched all the way down his back. I believe the biting and scratching and the pushing and stuff like that, I believe it is the boy, but I also believe there's other spirits here other than him.
Carlo and Heather are determined to stop the attacks before someone gets dangerously hurt.
I didn't know what we were up against, and I knew at that time I had to start doing some research and to figure out what's going on in this house, because I believe this house has a story to tell, and I wanted to know what it was. We just started digging into it, and that's when we uncovered the whole story of this house. It was built in 1898 by a gentleman named Jerome Bihl. He was out of Toledo. He was a businessman. He built a house in 1898, and he was here till 1922. The record we found on him is they had a stillborn here. Then in 1922, they sold the house to the Wolf family. They were a prominent family out of Lindsay, Ohio. They were very wealthy. They moved in here, and then I found 3 known deaths with them here, which was Daisy's mom actually dropped dead walking through the door, had a heart attack. Clarence, her husband, got hit by a car in 1940 crossing the street going to Hay Center, and then died 2 years later and died in 1942. And then Daisy died in her bedroom back here in 1966. In 1970, the house was sold to Lucas County Children's Group. It became an orphanage. After 6 years, it became the Harmony House, which now became a group home / orphanage. So now you had mentally challenged kids here, you had sick children here, and you also had unwanted kids all mixed up in this house. It was that till 1991, and then 92 and 93 was a group home for adult mentally challenged men. I heard from a few neighbors tell me that when it became the Harmony House, they heard it wasn't such a good place.
Local stories suggest that children were abused and neglected at the group home, and that one of the boys may have even taken his own life.
When it comes to tragic deaths, by suicide, accidental being in a car accident, anything like that, your soul, your spirit is confused. Are you dead? Are you alive? So you tend to stay behind because at that point you don't know what's going on, even in death. So you had, sadness, some happiness, depression. You had sickness. You had just about every kind of feeling come through this door. So, what's left behind is that energy. That energy is just sitting here and manifested itself. And I believe that's what we're witnessing in this home.
Everything they've uncovered about the history of the house changes Carlo and Heather's view on the ghosts scratching and biting.
I had a special needs son, and I feel like at some point one of the residents here was a special needs child. Maybe the boy, I'm not sure, but I feel that it's their way of communicating. I'm not sure that it's harmful intent. I feel that it's trying to get our attention. Maybe that was their space, and maybe they're trying to say, hey, I'm here, I was down here, something to that effect possibly. I feel like it's their home, and I feel like they're still here because it's their home, and I don't want to push them out of their home. I feel like if there was a way we could coexist without being scared, that'd be great, but I feel like it's their home, and I don't want to get rid of them because it's, especially if it's special needs children, this may be the only home they ever had. So I feel like they belong here.
I believe when I found this house actually found me. It's like a goal of mine now, just to get it fixed up, and maybe the spirits will enjoy it more, and maybe they won't bother people as much anymore once it's fixed. I don't know. It's hard to say, but that's one of my goals, is just to get this place, beautiful again, like it was back in the 1800s.
Carlo and Heather now treat the house as the ghost's home. Visitors continue to be able to stay and are often greeted by some of the home's many paranormal residents.
Now we just kind of opened it up as like a haunted Airbnb. So other people could come in and enjoy it, I guess. Because Heather and I never slept here. We never plan on sleeping here. The weird thing is, when it gets dark, we come in as a pair. We don't come alone. Anytime it gets dark, when this house, it's dark, it comes alive. It's got its own vibe to it. So so we decided to open it up and let people come in here. All the money we make, we put into the house, and then maybe one day, if we feel comfortable, and we think we're at that point where we can do a cleansing and blessing and hopefully move them on, maybe we will move in. As of right now, I don't think we want to deal with that.
I would love to move in and make that room my own. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings on that. I feel like, again, I still think it's their home. It may be the only home they ever had that felt like a happy place. So I don't know if I want to move them on. I mean, that may be the best thing for them, but I'm kind of torn in that. But I mean, maybe if he would want to do it, I could. But I don't know. After everything that's happened here, I don't know if I could live here.
A huge thank you to Carlo and Heather for sharing their story. Tune in next week, where you'll meet Steve and Chris, two paranormal investigators who had to go head-to-head with a demon claiming to be the infamous cult leader Jim Jones.